Hello, I'm Soke Kiyoshi Scott Conway at the Guardian Quest Martial Arts Dojo. I'm here to share with you about belts today. This is a white belt. This is where everyone begins. And this is a black belt. When people start, this is usually what they're thinking about. Now, what does a white belt mean? The white belt means you're a beginner. What it literally means is you just are who you are. Maybe you've never taken a class before in your life. You have no experience whatsoever. Maybe you've been doing other athletics, dance or gymnastics. You might walk in and be pretty good as a white belt. You might walk in and be clumsy and awkward and out of shape and be struggling to catch your breath after even just a few moves. It's okay. Wherever you start is where you start. The point isn't how good you are when you start. The point is that you start. What the white belt means is I am who I am. I haven't learned anything yet. So whoever you are when you walk in the door, whoever you are, whatever you can and can't do, whatever talent you have, whatever awkwardness you may feel you have, that's okay. It's a white belt. It just means you are who you are. Now, as you work your way up to black belt, most people think of black belt as an expert. Now, we have several levels of black belt. You have first degree black belt. That's when someone just brand new gets their black belt. You'll call such a person sensei. In general, if you see black in their belt, you're going to refer to them as sensei in any of the adult classes. The black belt means you've now invested 4 to 6 years in training. It'll be 4 years if you do the next level Guardian program. It could be 6 years if you choose to put in more time rather than do the extra study. The black belt doesn't mean you're done. In fact, most people understand that with the black belt, that means you really start getting into the cool stuff. But you can earn black belts in karate and jujutsu and kobujutsu. A small handful will move on to our Kempo level program. That means they've done all 3, and now they're learning Kempo and work on the black belts there. Now, the sequence of belts here starts at white belt, works your way steadily to black belt. Now, the belts may not always look exactly like this. It starts with white belt, and it goes to a white and yellow. It could be half and half. It could be split side to side, top to bottom. Then yellow, advanced yellow, which has some orange in it now. Orange, advanced orange has some purple. Purple, advanced purple now has some red. Red, advanced red has brown. Brown, and then advanced brown. Now, if you see this with the black stripe there, it means you'll call the person sensei. In fact, if you see any of the color combinations and there's a black stripe in the adult classes, you'll call that person sensei because it means they have a black belt in one of the other styles. This is a 4-year path. You do each belt in about 4 months each. You walk the entire path. You've completed the next level Guardian program by the time you reach the middle, and that's talked about in a separate video. And you continue at 4 months a belt. If you choose not to do the next level Guardian program, starting at purple belt, they become 8-month belts. And then this part of the process can take 4 years, and it's a 6-year black belt. I hope you do it in 4. Alright, well, we put away the karate, jujutsu, and the kobujutsu belts. We're going to look at some more advanced belts here. Sometimes you'll see our Kempo students. Now remember, if they're in Kempo, they've spent at least 2 years in karate and jujutsu and kobujutsu. Very likely they already have 1 or more black belts, possibly all 3 black belts. Kempo begins at blue belt, and it goes from blue to blue and green, then green and brown, kind of a lighter brown typically, and then a lighter brown like a sand color and black, and they get their black belts. Now that's an additional 4 years of training, and that's after they've already completed their other black belts. So they'll spend about 4 more years on top of the 4 to 6 years they've already spent earning more black belts. Now here's where you start to see the master ranks. Because in karate, jujutsu, and kobujutsu, I only award up to 3rd degree black belt. If you want to be a master, you need to do Kempo. Kempo is when you start to blend all the arts together and you dramatically expand what you do. You'll see one of these belts every once in a while. This is a Renshi belt, a master's belt. Renshi is a teacher of sensei. The job of a Renshi is to teach people who are already black belts or to teach people who are on their way to black belts. They're actually kind of not supposed to be teaching the junior ranks, the color belts who just want to work their way up to just get the black belt and be done. Their job is to prepare people for leadership. And this title is Renshi. Now the protocol changes. When you bow out at the end of class, you'll attention first and bow, and then you'll shake their hand, instead of just shake their hand like you do for just a black belt. So when you see the red in the belt like this, and it could be half red, half black, you will call that person Renshi, and that means they're a 5th or a 6th degree black belt. Now here's an example of a senior master's belt. My title is Kiyoshi. The Kiyoshi is the title for the 7th and the 8th degree black belts. For the 7th and 8th degree black belts, now the belt's mostly red and it has some black in it. And I've had this for a little while. This was awarded to me by Grandmaster General Lau before he had died, and so I wear this frequently. But it's mostly red with some black. And that's the master's belt for the Kiyoshi rank. And at the Kiyoshi level, you're talking about a 7th and an 8th degree black belt. Now, when I get my 9th degree black belt, when I'm finally old enough, which will be the age of 51, I'll mention ages again in a little bit, I will get a belt that is red and white. Now, it's allowed to be red and white. It could have some black trim in it. It should be about half red, half white, although you could, as I said, add some black into it. Now, what this is the 9th degree black belt. The title for a 9th degree black belt is Shihan, and that is another senior master's belt. And so I have this belt. I own this belt. Not allowed to wear this belt yet. Have to wait until I can get it. Now, after all of this, you get a white belt. 10th degree black belt. 60 years old or older, and you get your white belt again. Now, it doesn't look the same as the white belt did when you began. It'll typically be a thicker belt. It might have some embroidery. It might have some red, and it might have some other colors and maybe some black in it as well. But it's mostly white. And that's to represent the same thing the white belt represented when you started. When you take your very first lesson. That white belt you tie around your waist announces, I just am who I am. Whatever I am, whoever I am, what I can and can't do, this is just me. You work your way adding in the colors. It's I am who I am, and I know a little bit more. You work your way up to black belt and the master ranks, that white starts to show up again. And eventually, after about 40 or 50, maybe even more years of doing martial arts, you're right back to, I just am who I am. I've been doing this for so long. It's no longer something I do. It's no longer even just part of my identity. I just am who I am. And that's the title of Hanshi. The title of Hanshi implies one who is a master of oneself. And you have to be at least 60 years old to get that. I told you I'd mention ages. For the black belts in karate, jujutsu, and kobujutsu, there are no age requirements. But to start to get your black belts in kempo, there are some age requirements there. You need to be at least 14 before you can get your black belt in kempo, 16 to get 2nd degree, 18 to get 3rd degree. You have to be 21 for 4th, and you have to be 25 years old before you're allowed to get a master rank, no matter how young you were when you started. After you get this at the age of 25, you're still at the same belt for 6th degree black belt at the age of 30. When you move on to 7th degree black belt, you can do that at 36, and then at 43, you can move on to 8th degree black belt. When you're 51, then you can be a Shihan. You have to be 60 if you want to be a Hanshi. Now, part of that is because the Guardian arts, Guardian Kempo in particular, it's a lifestyle art. A saying in martial arts is that a good instructor will teach you how to fight. Certainly we do that. But a great instructor will teach you how to live. And we are a martial art that teaches you how to live as well as how to fight. This goes by an old samurai ideal called Katsujinkin, Satsujinkin. The sword that takes life and the sword that gives life. That's part of our ideal, to teach you how to fight. Through teaching you how to fight, we let you have a normal life. But the next step after that is how to have a victorious life, a triumphant life. To be able to take the principles and the ideas that you learn and to live them out. And that's what mastery around here means. It doesn't just mean you steady punching and kicking and grappling and throwing at weapons for a long time, although certainly you will have done that. It means that you learn the concepts and the principles behind it. You learn how to master life. So you're a black belt in life, a master of life, a master of an art, and ultimately, when you get back to white belt, a master of oneself. So those are the belts of the Guardian Quest Martial Arts Dojo. And I hope that helps explain some things. As you work your way from white belt, as you were in your first black belt, maybe your first 3 black belts, and possibly, just maybe, begin the path of Kempo so that you can be a master. I hope to see you there.